a lot of the older Ukrainian officers, they served in the Soviet army. And so they know some of the Russian officers.
Before we continue, we invite you to follow our channel, the only American show reporting live from Ukraine every day.
Secretary of State Blinken has given his strongest hint yet that the White House is about to lift its restrictions on Ukraine using long-range weapons. And British government sources are now saying that a decision has already been made to allow Ukraine to use Storm Shadow cruise missiles on targets inside Russia. I would think that would be received as pretty good news in Ukraine. Let's find out. Joseph Lindsley connected with us now today. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Bob. Hello from Odessa. And yes, it's great news. Even here just a few hours ago in Odessa, there was a small, brief Russian attack, which it's sort of amazing how, a missile flew to this city, and it's a small story because it happens so often. And since then, much of the center of the city has been without power. So we're on generator power now. And I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but it's a deafening sound throughout the city. And amazing how everyone has adapted. But as you walk these beautiful birch tree lined streets of Odessa, the balconies kind of look like what you would see in southern France or New Orleans. Breathing the sea air, you see these giant generator boxes everywhere. The new power grid as Russia tries to strangle this country. Not only we've had reports the past week of Russia polluting rivers that flow into Ukraine and possible attempts to disrupt the water supply. And then we see this continued effort to strangle the electrical grid as we feel here in Odessa. So this news that at last, and indeed it seems the United Kingdom has confirmed that Ukraine will be able to use Storm Shadow missiles to hit targets within Russia. And, the British had wanted to give this power some time ago. In fact, when at the NATO summit in Washington, Sir Keir Starmer, he had just become the British Prime Minister, and he seemed to have told President Zelensky, yeah, we're going to give you this permission. And then the next day, the Foreign Office of the UK clarified, and they said there was one country preventing them from doing that. They didn't name the country, but it's pretty obvious to most that was to everyone that was the United States. And the reason being, even though the Storm Shadows, they're made in France and the UK, but they have some components that come from the United States. And what that does is it gives the U.S. permission to control whether or not, how those weapons can be used. And so the British really wanted to give this a long time ago, but they were restricted by the U.S. And so now it seems that permission has been granted. And, those missiles do have the range, theoretically to hit Moscow or somewhere near Moscow. And what this could do is what we've seen in the past since May, when the United States gave a limited permission for Ukrainians to hit about 100 kilometers into Russian territory, that for a while made border cities like Kharkiv safer. And then the Russians had time to adapt and to move their launch points further into the Russian Federation. So this can help reach those launch points. And the other notable thing, if indeed the United States will give permission for the ATACMS, that's something they have not done. Ukrainians can use those ATACMS, which are high precision weapons. They can use them on Ukrainian soil to hit Russians, but so far never, not even close to the border, never have they been allowed to use those on the Russian soil. So this could be a big change, and that is something that Ukrainians have been asking for a long time.
More good news for you, Joseph. Text from Chris Manson from USAmbulanceforUkraine.org, and he writes, we are sending 2 more ambulances from Illinois in our next shipment. Also a fire engine from California. Pretty good, huh?
Yeah, Chris, I met friends of Chris, the Ukrainians he's been supporting yesterday, those great firefighters. And, they were so grateful to have this American firefighting equipment here. And, things you don't realize, but I didn't really think about, but, there's still regular fires. There's still regular problems, in addition to rocket attacks. And so it's a big burden that the firefighters have. And while I was talking with the chief of the volunteers, his phone was ringing constantly. And he said a new situation that they have, you might have older women whose sons are at the front or maybe were killed in battle, but very often are, fighting at the front lines. And so, parts of life where your family, your son, or some men in your family could help an old lady. Well, they don't have that anymore, so they have to call the fire department increasingly to help with different situations. And so that's another way that the firefighters are responding. And in a moment of levity, the chief told me he's got a colleague in the department who, because I mean, they don't ever get to rest. In fact, the chief told me he went to the beach once, even though the beach is right here in Odessa, one time these past 2.5 years, and that was to recover a sea mine. So no time for rest, and it really is exhausting. But he was telling me that one of his colleagues, likes to have a little of the homemade spirits now and then. But he has this amazing ability. Every time he hears the trevoha, the air raid alarm, he snaps to attention. And so his wife now has got a button she presses to play. She's recorded the air raid alarm, and whenever she wants her husband not to be drunk, she plays the air raid alarm, and he snaps to attention. And on the same topic, a lot of the older Ukrainian officers, they served in the Soviet army, and so they know some of the Russian officers and the Russians that are launching the attacks upon Ukraine, and so they'll say sometimes, especially a couple of years ago, the Russians would call and say, hey, you should surrender and come back for old time's sake. But now I'm hearing, especially from officers here in Odessa, when Russians get drunk every night on their vodka, these old officers call their former colleagues in tears, saying, we're so sorry. We're really sorry. We don't know what to do.
That's unbelievable. And meanwhile, Moscow is putting pressure on Kyiv's front line, right? I mean, it's got to be stretched pretty thin. And is the feeling there fierce battles are coming soon?
Yeah, I mean, indeed. I mean, the Russians are making progress toward that city of Pokrovsk. Although it's always important to remember the reason why that city is strategic. It would not have been strategic if Russians were, taking major Ukrainian cities. So it's strategic in what Russians are trying to achieve by taking more territory in Donbass. And there's no indication that vector is changing. The Russians most likely will soon have control of that city. But that's where it's going to be up to Ukrainian ingenuity to use this new permission with the amazingly effective Storm Shadow missiles to hit back. So I think we are. I mean, everyone's sort of expecting we're going to see a very intense period on both sides in these coming weeks.
I'm still thinking about the air raid siren alert.
Instant sobriety.
Yeah, really. Joseph Lindsley. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate the great stories, as always.
To try that at home in Chicago, everyone. All right, until tomorrow.
Thank you for introducing Ukraine on your social media pages. That's very important that much more people can get more information about the situation here and how everybody can help Ukraine to stay stronger and to save all the world.
Что он сказал?
Well, which side are you on?
На чьей ты стороне?
Come on now. Oh, which side are you on?
На чьей ты стороне?